Good morning, students. Let us complete that story that we were reading. The marchers share their experiences. So I'll be sharing my PDF with you. Just take a while. Okay, so we have read till here where the March sisters, the two elder March sisters, they were leaving for work, and we have also read about what these two sisters did about their work. So let's move further. Meg had found a job as a nursery governess, and she felt jealous of other rich girls who led a comfortable life. When she saw them wearing expensive dresses, going to concerts, and wasting money on frivolous things. So frivolous here means not having any serious purpose or value. So they just wasted their money on useless things which were not of much value or which were not required. So basically they indulged in wasteful expenditure. She felt a sense of injustice. So she felt that, that this was injustice. Here they were slogging very hard, toiling very hard to save each and every penny. And there the rich girls, they were wasting their money. They were doing no work at all. This made her bitter sometimes. She would also feel depressed. So she got really angry, when she saw such things. Jo attended on Aunt March, who was lame and needed an active person to help her. So lame means that she was not able to walk. She had actually wanted to adopt a girl, but the Marchers had declined the offer. So the aunt, she offered them that she would adopt one of the girls, but the Marchers did not accept her offer. They would always be together and be happy in one another. They would not give up even one girl for the sake of fortune. So these people, the Marchers, were a close-knit family. So for money, they did not want to send a girl to Aunt March's. So this shows that the family they had a very strong bond, even though the family was poor. The old lady, however, took a fancy to Jo. That means she developed a very strong liking for Jo. Maybe it was the girl's blunt manner. She was very frank. She was very straightforward. She offered to take her as a companion. Although it did not appeal much to the girl, yet she accepted it because nothing better came her way. So this idea of serving as a companion to Aunt March did not appeal. She did not like this idea much, but then she had no other work to do. So she took up this job. Surprisingly, she got remarkably well with the querulous lady. Querulous means she was, complaining all the time, nagging all the time. So, but she got along very well with her. Both quarreled a lot, but patched up quickly. So they quickly patched up. They made up for the quarrel. In their heart of hearts, they liked each other. So they developed a mutual liking for each other. The real attraction for Jo was the large library. Whenever Jo was free, she would go and hurl herself up in the easy chair and get herself engrossed in a book. So she would arrange herself, she would sit up in a chair, in an easy chair, and take up a book from the library and start to read. Got engrossed means completely immersed, okay, completely involved in the book. But usually when she was at the most interesting part of a story, a shrill voice would shout, "Josephine!" and she would have to leave her reading and resume her job. So this was the problem here, this was a drawback here. Either reading and resume her job, either washing the poodle or combing the lady's hair. So poodle is a breed of dog, so either she would have to wash the poodle, give a bath to the dog, or comb the lady's hair. However, this training did her good because Aunt March, being a strict lady, kept Jo on her toes. She was basically an ambitious and restless girl. So this, occupied most of the time. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for Jo to pass her time because she was a very restless and an ambitious person. So her energies were channelized in the right direction here. Beth was too shy to go to school. It was tried, but she could not adjust to the school discipline. Eventually, it was given up. Her father, before going to work, taught her at home. After he left, she was left alone, for her mother was busy with social work. Beth, basically a home bird. That means she liked to stay at home. She didn't like to go out much often. Worked with Hannah to keep the house neat and clean. She pined for a fine piano. So she desired to have a fine piano and music lessons, but her parents could not afford that because they were poor. She sang melodiously. Melodiously means tunefully, in a pleasing manner, never complained but wept a little sometimes, and hoped to get music lessons someday. So why did she weep? Because she wanted to get a fine piano, and also she wanted to learn. She wanted music lessons, but the parents could not afford that. Amy had a few problems of her own. Her nose was a little flat, and she had to wear her cousin Florence's clothes. So because they were poor, probably they couldn't buy new clothes, so she had to wear her cousin Florence's clothes. Her friendly nature was greatly admired by her friends. She talked elegantly, so in a very graceful manner she spoke. Everyone petted her. Petted her means they pampered her because she was the youngest child. She was great at drawing, so she was very good at drawing. She discussed her problems with Meg, while Jo did the same with Beth. So these two elder sisters, Jo and Meg, they took care of the younger sisters. The two older girls guided their younger sisters. As they sat sewing that evening, Meg asked, "Don't you have anything interesting to narrate? I really want to hear some funny stories." Jo started immediately. As always, I was reading the boring story. She soon dozed off. I quickly took out my Vicar of Wakefield and read with one eye on the aunt. At one point, I laughed out heartily. That woke her up. She was in a good mood after the nap, for she inquired what made me laugh. When I told her, she asked me to read from my book. I think she rather enjoyed it. Once I stopped at a thrilling place, and she told me to finish that chapter. So thrilling here means something exciting. That means she liked the book, stated Meg. I suppose so. How I wish she allows me to read from my favorite authors instead of her boring ones, said Jo. So here Jo is talking about Aunt March. Amy narrated an incident which occurred at school. Susie Perkins drew a cartoon picture of their class teacher on a slate. Mr. Davis was shown with an enormous nose and a hump on his back. He soon found out and ordered her to show it to him. When she went to him timidly means without courage, he caught her by the ear and made her stand on the platform with the slate in front of her. It was truly terrible. All the students were scared. So those days, corporal punishment was allowed and the children were punished when they did something wrong. So they were given physical punishment. I saw something in the morning, started Beth. I found Mr. Lawrence in the fish shop. He didn't see me. A poor woman came and begged the shopkeeper to let her do some scrubbing in exchange of some fish, for she had nothing to cook for dinner for her children. Mr. Cutter was in a hurry and said no rather angrily. She looked pathetic means miserable, at the refusal, but then Mr. Lawrence took up a big fish with the crook of his cane, so with the bent part of his cane, and gave it to her. She was so surprised that she held it in her arms and thanked him again and again. Wasn't it good of him? So here, Mr. Lawrence has been very kind to the lady. He took pity on the poor lady and gave that fish to her. Now it's your turn to tell us a story, mother, said Meg. Mrs. March narrated her experience of the day. It was a poor old man who had come to order some clothes. I asked him whether he had any sons in the army. He said not one, but 4. 2 were killed, 1 was a prisoner, and he was going to visit the 4th one in a hospital in Washington. When I told him he had done a great deal for the country, he told me that he would have gone himself, but he was too old. So instead, he sent his sons. He looked so sincere that I felt ashamed of myself. I'd given 1 man and I'm always worried about him. And this man had given 4 without complaining. So who's this man she's talking about? She's talking about her husband, who's on a ward. Here I am with all my daughters at home to keep me company, and he was going to perhaps bid goodbye to his last son. So probably the old man's son was suffering from and probably was dying in the hospital, and he was going to meet his son for the last time, his ailing son for the last time. I thanked God for his blessings, made a nice bundle and gave him some money too. He taught me a really important lesson. We have so much to feel grateful for, only we don't realize it. The girls remained silent. So that's all about this story now. So one very important lesson which Mrs. March learned and also taught her girls was that one should be grateful for what one has instead of complaining about things which one doesn't have. Thank you.